Hey guys, welcome to Laurie's little studio. I'm still in the tiny studio, but I have access to my regular studio, which is going to be a little bit bigger because I gave my sofa to my daughter and son-in-law for their new house, and I'm going to reset the little studio. I'm going to move some tables and chairs kind of into different areas and see how that affects my video lighting. I don't know, it may help, I hope so. But as you can see today, I have this in front of me and we're going to be working on bows. I believe I have some footage of me making a bow out of this ribbon late last week. I went ahead and filmed it, and I'll probably just pop a picture or some of the video around in here somewhere because we're going to work on a different bunch of bows, and I figure why use old footage. So first things first, I need to turn on this ring light behind me and see if that doesn't help a little bit with this glare. I don't know. I'm still going to have shadows. I'm not able to figure out how to fix that. Today we're just going to use a printed version of ribbon here, and then this is sort of like a mesh or just a net. Pretty thick. It's almost like satin, but not quite. And then this, of course, is cotton, and it is also just printed, and they're printed on one side. Some ribbon comes printed on both sides. This one is also single-sided that way. I've removed these ribbons from their spools. Some ribbon spools come like this, and other ribbon spools come like this. They're kind of handy to have, so I do recommend that you hang on to them. This ribbon was very wrinkled, and that's one of the reasons why I take it off of the spools. Like right here, when I unwound it, this part was crumpled under like this on the spool, and this is pretty much set in. I might have to starch it. I currently do not have an ironing board. I'll tell you the story of the ironing board. When my husband and I were first married 44 years ago this month, people were still collecting what was commonly referred to as green stamps or stamps. And you would get them for various purchases. If you go to the grocery store and you buy food at the grocery store, you would get your receipt and a handful of these green stamps. I'll see if I can find a picture. I'll pop it up right here. I no longer have any green stamps, but that's because I collected and I collected and I collected. And other people would give me their green stamps, and eventually I filled, I don't even know, I cannot remember how many green stamp books. And there were items that you could purchase with your green stamps. One of those items 44 years ago was an ironing board, and I really needed an ironing board. I'm from the South, We ironed our socks, we ironed our stockings, we ironed our pillow cases and our sheets. Nothing in the house was safe from the iron and the ironing board. And when I grew up, I got paid to iron clothes. It was amazing. I got paid to iron sheets, tablecloths, napkins. So there was a lot of ironing going on in my life. But this is right after I got married and we were pretty poor and I needed an ironing board. So I bought it with my green stamps. I recently removed it from the studio and took all the padding and all the ironing board covers. Sometimes I'll just layer, the pad, and then I'll have like an old ironing board cover and I'll leave it and I'll put another one on top of that. Well, evidently that didn't help the steam going through because the actual platform of the ironing board, the part that you iron on, is so rusted. It's sad how rusted and awful it looks. So my husband has said that he will restore it for me. I love the idea of just keeping that ironing board. There's nothing wrong with it other than that platform is in pretty bad shape. But if it would prevent me from having to dispose of it, I wouldn't be able to give it to like Goodwill or Value Village or any of those type thrift stores because they would take one look at it and say, are you kidding? So the idea that he could restore it for me and keep it out of the landfill is fantastic. My only concern is I need it like yesterday. So I'm hoping he can put it on the front burner rather than the back burner. Otherwise I'm gonna be hurting. I need an ironing board. I mean, look at this. So anyway, that's the story of my ironing board. I was talking about ribbon and how sometimes that's why I'll take it off of the spool, because you want to make sure, especially if you're making a big fluffy bow, that you're not going to run into something like this and then, not be able to fix it. So I know a lot of people will take big, huge rolls of ribbon and go to a bow making class or a bow making fun project at someone's house, and I'll give you some of this if you'll give me some of that kind of thing. And you don't want to have this be a part of the problem. So if you remove it, you'll discover how your ribbon looks. You'll have spools for other things. One of the things that I wanted to mention is when you remove it from the spool and then you wind it back up, it's really a good idea, and this to me is really important. Let's say that I've got all this ribbon right here unwound. I just took it off of the spool and I have this, like this big wad of ribbon. It's twisted, it's looped on itself, and it can be aggravating, especially if it is wired ribbon. Wired ribbon has a wire that runs along each of these edges. It's been zigzagged or serged on, and it helps you form your bows. But if it's wired and you've taken it off of the spool and you got this mess going on, you're probably thinking, well, that was a dumb idea. I should not have listened to her when she said take it all off of the spool. But I want to show you a trick. If you look at this and think to yourself, I'm going to be doing this and trying to get it wound up, don't do that. Take your ribbon and either have this little cut end facing you or facing away from you like this, and then just start winding it up like so. And while I'm having to flip the ribbon, I'm not having to turn and maybe lose it and drop it and have to start all over again. It's very easy to do it like this. Just straighten it out like so. And then if it won't stay and you're going to put it away for the day, I do not recommend using tape. it's hard on this edge, it will fray. But you can either clip it with an old pair of pinking shears, which will stop that. Don't use good pinking shears that you cut fabric with, because you got these little wires in here. Or you can put some fray check on it, or you can use a lighter, just a light little swoosh by of a lighter, or you can dovetail. And to dovetail means that you're going to go from the ribbon, the folded edge of the ribbon, toward the wire. If you go from the wire to the folded edge of the ribbon, you'll end up with a point. But if you want to dovetail, you need to go from the folded side of the ribbon to the wire. Like so. Oh, my scissors are gummy. They're very gummy. Let's see if I can just use the tip. Yeah. Like so. And there's your dovetail. Now it will, sometimes you'll still have a little bit of fray even when you've done this, and you might need to use the lighter method or some fray check. If you use fray check, you'll have to let it dry. So that's something to consider. All right. And do also keep in mind, here's a safety tip. If you have pets, so if you have a dog or a cat or a ferret or a bunny, especially rabbits, they love to chew on this. Rabbits are notorious for chewing on cords. There's just some compelling thing, I don't know what it is, but this ribbon will put your animal in the hospital. So that little piece that I just threw away, that's very important to me. I have 2 dogs. My kids also have dogs, and I just don't want them to come over here and be in harm's way. So anytime I do anything like this, I don't leave this laying around. Like, I'm not going to leave it on my work surface, because I have a fan in every room, and I can just see a fan picking this up and blowing it onto the floor. And then an unsuspecting animal can ingest this horrible little tiny piece of wire, and off to the emergency vet you go if you catch it in time. And it may even be too late if you do catch it in time. So keep that in mind, and make sure that they all go right into the garbage. If you don't have a garbage near you, I don't recommend that you use a plastic bag. Try to use something solid, like a Tupperware container or something, if you're going to be in a space that is at any time occupied by animals. And that also is true for chenille stem. These are also wired, and they will, I don't know what it is about this kind of thing in animals, but they're just so interested in them that I really want to tell you, please be careful. What we're going to do is tie some holiday bows. I put this bow that I made on top of my tree that I've named Susie Q Twister. And Susie Q Twister is now decked out with super white bright lights, the little dot lights, and on top a blue and white bow. I was thinking how pretty this ribbon is, because I love the look of ticking, and I made this big huge enormous bow and put it on there, and I put the lights on, and then I thought to myself, my neighbors are going to think that somebody in my family is having a boy because that's what it looks like. But I don't care. It's sort of, today is November the 14th, and it's just one of those in between. It's almost Thanksgiving. We need to just kind of have an interim before I get into the holiday. I'm decking my house out for Christmas, and this is just sort of an in-between bow. that I can save and use for other occasions. So I'm going to hang on to this. I'm not using it today since I've already made that bow, but I wanted to show you another bow. So I have some, I mean, it looks like the holidays. It looks like November to me. You could use this for Halloween, or you could use this for Thanksgiving. It's got the little acorns and the fall colored leaves and some late blooming flowers and of course pumpkins. Then this is I'm just going to call it kind of a rustic, not quite farmhouse because I think the color is a little too deep, but it's kind of a rustic, I don't know, woodland looking ribbon that to me coordinates nicely with this one. And this is just a solid that will go with either one. So today's bow is going to just be a conglomeration of these three ribbons. I also want to say, before I forget, that the new project that I have is something I've been missing for the longest time, and I didn't know it. And that is, well, I'll just pop a picture up. I've ordered this and it should be here in 2 days, Wednesday, which would be the 16th of November. So here you go. This is my next project with you guys right here. I cannot wait. I have not done a project. And someone in my family, it wasn't my mom, it was like my aunt, someone sent me, it might have been a grandmother, sent me one of those red looms, the metal with the little prongs all around, the little wire hooky thing, and a huge bag of those cotton loops. And I went crazy making pot holders. So I didn't develop the fancy technique where you would have the little fringes all around the edge. I don't know how they do that, but I plan to look into it. The cotton loops that I purchased, it was a massive bag that claims you can make 12 pot holders. My plan is to get into that bag and separate out all the colors, and then if I need specific colors, evidently they're available on Amazon. So if I want some more teal or I want some more red, I mean, you guys know me with my teal and my red. If I need some more of those colors to kind of make mine definitely mine, then I will order some, because I noticed that they did have teal or aqua, and they have what they called red, but it's more of a salmon. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get myself set up here on the tiny studio table, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I am going to make a big bow. This is by no means the only way to make a bow, and it is probably a way that you have seen demoed over and over and over again. I'm curious to see how these three look together in this bow that I'm planning to make. So what I plan to do is I need to cut, I think, let's see, 3 each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I don't think that'll be too big. If I have to reduce it down, then I'll just leave out some. But I want to have enough that I can make it look full and pretty. So my plan here is this little line right here. I don't know if you can see it, but it is 18 inches from here to the edge of my desk platform. And that is how big I want to cut, or it's not big, how long I want to cut each of these pieces of ribbon. Now, the thing for me is that does not have to be an exact number. It can be 18. These scissors are hideous. What did I do with my other scissors? Why can't I find those? I have located the other scissors. Let's see. All right. So as I was saying, these are approximately 18 inches. If they end up being a little bit bigger, like 18 and a half, or a little bit smaller, like say 17 or 17 and a half, I'm okay with that. And the wires make it easy because you can just kind of bend where you want to cut. Make sure it's straight-ish. That seems to be important when you're doing the dovetail. Okay, maybe one more. And I'm just using the cut pieces as a guide. Now you can fussy cut your ribbon too. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean is if you don't want this to be at the very end, or if there is a design on your ribbon that you want to have prominently displayed when you make the loop, you can fussy cut by checking to see where that would be. You will lose a bit of ribbon. It's like cutting on the nap of fabric, but it can sometimes make the difference in how your bow looks. Okay, so I have these three. Let's just go ahead and quickly cut the other ribbon real quick. All right, so these are my three pieces of ribbon. Now I just need to decide, do I want the iridescent, do I want this ribbon, the solid ribbon, in between these two? I think so. I mean, that's pretty much, you know, by the book right there. You could have these two together and this on the outside on either, but I just kind of feel like this is, you know, cookie cutter. This is what it should look like. Okay, so for each of these 9 pieces of ribbon, I now need to dovetail at least one end. I know others who go ahead and dovetail both. It will keep this piece right. It will keep this from fraying if you decide to go ahead and dovetail it. I think I'll just do it without because I don't mind it if it frays. And you want to go, so if this right here is the halfway point, and I will fold it just so you can see. If this is the halfway point on our piece of ribbon, I might need to zoom you down just a wee bit. Whoa. Okay, so that's the halfway point. Also, I need to make a mark so I know where to stay. Where's my pencil? Oh, it's right in front of my face. Alright, so if I'm here, you guys can see me. So I need to stay within those lines. Okay, so you see this right here is a little tiny piece of that wire on the end of my finger. Oh, where'd it go? Right here. I'm not sure if it's going to show up, but it's that sparkly thing right there. Yeah. I don't want that in my carpet for my dog, so I'm going to throw that in the garbage. Okay, now getting back to what I was saying. This is the center. I want this end, the folded end, to go just past the center. Not too far past, because then when I gather it up, that will become, that can show That's why I think a lot of people go ahead and do that dovetail. The only reason that I am averse to doing the dovetail here is that's just another section of ribbon that I then need to throw in the garbage and worry about wire. So I'm not going to. I have enough of it on the other end. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and dovetail all of the ends. Now one of these is going to have two, yeah, it has, because I was using this as a sample for how to do a dovetail. So this one is dovetailed on both ends. That's okay. It won't hurt anything. All right, so now I need to fold in half or measure the halfway point on each of these pieces, and then fold the straight end down. And I do want to make sure that the shiny side of the ribbon, you can kind of see there is a difference. This is the shiny and this is kind of dull. This is the side that will be the outer portion of the bow. So whatever side you want to have show on the outside, make sure that you are folding that down to the inside of your ribbon. So we're going to call this shiny side the right side and this side the wrong side, like we would with fabric. So I'm going to take the wrong side down on top of the wrong side, just past that halfway fold that I made. And I need the point of the dovetail right here to be past that halfway point. So there we go. And you can kind of check to see if they're about the same. I'm kind of just gently pressing these down. I'm not, really folding them down hard. I don't want that fold to be super obvious later on, so I don't want it to be a huge crease. And I don't want this fold to be a huge crease. So I'm just kind of running my hand over them gently, not pushing down. And then I'll just bring this over slightly past and run my hand down again. Just, make sure it's not super creased. Okay, so I have 3 of the pumpkin, 3 of the plaid, and 3 of the solid. So next, I kind of need to decide how I want this all to look together. So first things first, is this my outer or is the pumpkin my outer? I think the pumpkin will be the outer piece. So I am going to kind of gather it up like so, and I'm going to kind of make a bouquet of little ribbon folds. Okay, so next I'm going to take one of these on the inside, kind of scrunch it up, and I need to make sure that I am catching this folded over piece. It needs to be caught up in my little bow bouquet. And then the same with this. Like so. And I'm now going to take my chenille pipe cleaner. You can also use floral wire if it doesn't bother your hands. And this needs to be fairly tight. It doesn't have to be insanely tight. Okay, just kind of leave that hanging out like that. All right, and we're going to do it again. We're going to take a pumpkin and crumple it up, or gather it up, however you want to call that. We're going to take solid, and let me just show you, I'm making sure that I'm catching this little dovetail part in this gather, because if I don't, it will come undone. The bow, this loop will come out. Same thing, and squinch it together. Squinch is a word. And then do the plaid. Okay, and honestly, if it gets like I cannot hold on to this, my arthritis is just too bad, then you can stitch them. You know, just use needle and thread. I'm wrapping this around and pulling it fairly tight to hold it in place. But for example, you know, if your hands get sore and you don't want to stop and wait, or you know, do whatever it is that you need to do other times when you're crafting, like right now, you know, the arthritis in my thumbs is a little painful, so I'm going to take a sip of Diet Coke. With a little remnant of leftover Dr. Pepper from the last one. It wasn't quite done. Okay, and then I'm going to take my last bow piece and gather it up. Gather this one up. And again, if it was just too much for me to hold, I would just do big stitches with the needle and thread to gather it up. It would take a lot longer, but you know, sometimes you do what you gotta do. And I'm going to put that right there. And I'm going to take my, I need to scooch this up a little bit. Chenille piece and wrap it around like so. Now I know that's going to come undone, so the next thing I'm going to do is take another one. I'm going to leave a tail like this, and I was wrapping it this way. So this one is going to start right here. Twist that on there. And wrap, pulling tight. Okay, and now I'm going to take the two tails that I have left from my original and the new one. I'm going to take these two and wrap them around the long piece that I have left. Just twist this around until it's nice and tight. And leave this in the center. I might need it, I might not. Sometimes you can use it to attach your bow to something, like a wreath or a garland or something. But I want all the ends kind of twisted so that they're not pokey. Okay. Alright, so you have like your bouquet, right? Da, 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 da. So next, we're going to take each piece of this and we're going to twist it down, pull it down, pull it down, pull it down. Start over here, pull it down, and you can go back and forth, whichever way you prefer. Okay, like so. And you'll notice that for the most part, that chenille is pretty hidden. I mean, there's a bit of it there. But now I'm going to just lay this down. I'm going to take both of my hands and I'm going to fluff out these folded pieces of ribbon. And you can change where they are. If you don't like this one being here, you know, you can slide it over and push this one over on top, sort of like that. If these are too close together, this one can come this, oops, it came out. That was one of the mistakes I made. Yep. Okay, well, we're just gonna leave it in there. That's one reason why it's not a bad idea to either glue or sew. But hey, this is real life. This is what happens. And then we have to figure out how to fix it. Okay. I'm actually not mad about it. It doesn't look bad. It almost kind of has a I did that on purpose look. Okay, so then what do we do with these? Well, same thing. We're just going to pull them out like this, all the way around the base. And there's a bunch of them. Twist them if you have to get the proper side of the ribbon showing. Like this one needs to be twisted, and this one needs to be twisted. And then I like to just sort of plop mine down and do a little bit of finagling, like so. I'm going to put this one there and this one here, and I gotta figure out well, let's see, do I want to glue it? If I glue it, it's forever permanent. If I don't glue it, I can take it apart. I'm going to see if I can't get this. There we go. There we go. Okay, so because I don't really want to make this a permanent bow, what I'm going to do is just move that piece that popped out down here and dovetail the end. And I can attach it with this piece of chenille. And I think it turned out real pretty. I love big, huge, fluffy bows. And of course, once I get it on the wreath, that's when you do your final, you know, finagling. We need some chenille. And I think what I'm going to do, I think I'm going to make it out of the plaid. Yep. Alright, so I'm going to cut one piece of ribbon 15 inches long. I might have to, yep. I was going to have to go over here. I love those colors. Okay, so I need a 15-inch piece of ribbon. So basically on this line, I can just use that as a mark. Alright, so I have my 15-inch piece. Because this ribbon is not double-sided, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to fold it in half, kind of mark, just push down on the wire a little bit. And then I'm going to take this end and I'm going to fold it slightly beyond that fold right there. And I'm going to do the same thing with this piece, but I'm going to cross over the piece that I have just pressed down. So slightly past this piece, like that. Now, if you want, you know, this bow is this big, or this piece of a bow is this big. If you want one bigger, of course, you would use a longer piece of ribbon. But these will be like, if you were going to put these on a Christmas tree and you didn't want something as ostentatious as this on the side of your tree. I mean, you might want something big and fluffy like this on the top of your tree, but I don't know how well something this ginormous would work on, you know, the side of your tree, on the branches of your tree. So if you wanted something a little less huge, and I realize this isn't Christmas ribbon, but at the moment this is really all I have. Okay, then we're going to do a 17-inch piece of ribbon. So here's 17. All right, and perfect. I can just, oops, I moved it. What was I thinking? 17 is on, I don't know if you can see it, but there's like a little black dashed line right here. I'm going to cut on that line like so. And again, I'm going to fold it in half, mark where the center is, and then take one end and go slightly beyond, not a whole lot beyond, but slightly beyond. And then this piece right here will just go beyond the end of this piece, overlapping just a little bit. And the amount is truly up to you. It doesn't have to be, you know, exact science. Okay, so now this one is going to be ever so slightly bigger than this one, not much. Now I'm going to take a piece of ribbon. No, not too complicated. All right, I'm going to take an 18-inch piece. Again, I'm using a line on here. Right. Now what I want to do is squinch these up. I want the bigger piece in the back. I need to make sure that I'm getting this, so squinch here. And then the same thing for this one, making sure I'm catching where it's folded. And unfortunately, you do kind of have to hold on to both, you know, finagle them like so. And again, if it's easier, you could stitch. Okay. Now, oh, I forgot. This piece of ribbon I am going to fold like so, but I'm not going to fold it all the way down each end, just right there. So let's get this squinched up again. I guess it'll work if they're both together. Let me make sure. Yeah, okay. So I don't know if you saw that, but you can hold both and squinch them together at the same time instead of individually. All right, I'm going to place this folded piece of this ribbon right over the top of these two bows, holding it tight. And tie it in a knot. So I want the left side to go under the right side. Like so, and I'm going to twist it and then just finagle the heck out of these two bows that I don't want them curled backwards, so I'm going to have to be very mindful of making sure. There. Okay, then it looks like that on the back. Sort of twisted. Now keep in mind, this bow is not like held together, but it is a good Christmas tree bow, or if you have a garland and you want to put something on the garland that's not too ridiculous, too fluffy, and I just do not recommend that you pull or tug on the bow parts. This right here. And then if you want it to be a permanent forever bow in your collection, you could glue this on the back. Okay, now if you want your bow to be dovetailed, you can do that, or you can, and I just wanted to show you the opposite effect. Fold it just like we've been doing, but this time, instead of cutting from the folded edge down to the wire, we are going to cut from the wire up here down to the folded edge, and I'll show you the opposite effect. So this time I'm on the wire side, and I'm going to cut straight down, making sure I get to the point in that fold, and I have a pointy bow like that. Some like them and some do not. And if you don't, of course, you can always just go back and fix it. So this is my, if I want to put a bow on the side of a Christmas tree, I decided not to use the chenille because it would be too thick right underneath my tie right there. And you can fiddle with them however you need to make your bow as pretty as you want it. Just keeping in mind, of course, that it's not, unless you glue it, it's not held, you know, together back here. It's just kind of tied in a knot back there. And I do recommend that you go ahead, give it a try, finagle the bow the way you want it to look. You can always put a little dot of glue on the back and put this on a present. They look really pretty on gifts. And so there's that bow, and then we have, once again, the big, ginormous, ostentatious, kind of messy bow that I just adore. And the final bow that I'm going to make, and I'm probably going to do it out of this, is, I think, called a shabby bow. It's been, I don't know, 100 years since I made one, but I have a bowl that I like to put Christmas decorations in, and I think it would be pretty on the front of that bowl. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. This is the shiny side. Now I want these to be 14 inches. Yeah, just going to go with 14. Well, I'm actually going to make it 15 because I am going to do both ends have to be dovetailed. So I'm folding it and then fold side to wire side. Wow. Fold to wire. Okay, and I'm going to need a whole bunch of these. So I'm going to go ahead and get these cut. And when I come back, they'll all be ready. I'm going to need 3 sets, 3 sets, and 3 sets. So I need 9 pieces of ribbon. I forgot I was going to show you guys something, and I literally, it just swooped right out of my head. So let's say that you're sitting there with your ribbon pieces and you're watching your favorite show on Netflix, and you have to dovetail all of the ends of the ribbon, and it's just kind of feeling tedious. If you want to cut that job in half, or if you kind of want a shortcut, or if you've got one piece of ribbon and you just want to do one cut, fold it in half. Fold it in half, and on the folded side cut toward the wire, and you have your dovetailed ends. So that will help cut down on how much cutting you have to do, or you can do several pieces at the same time if your scissors are strong enough. There we go. And I think that's it. Okay, so now I need to dispose of all of this wiry ribbon mess. Okay, perfect. You're probably thinking, what? Well, unless you realized that I was going to need some extra pieces. I only had 7, enough to make 7. So since I don't have enough to make that into a real Christmas bow at the moment, I don't know how it would look with the blue. Honestly, I don't know how it would look. Not really. Okay. So what I plan to do is I'm going to take 1, 2. Wow, this is bringing back really weird memories because forever I used to do these. Okay, and then we're going to lay one here. Like, well, except I don't want that one. This one. This way. And they kind of need to be centered, so make sure that you've got them, you know, somewhat centered, like that. So this piece is here, this is on the center of this piece, and this piece is on the center of this piece, like so. Then we're going to take this piece, we're going to go right over the top. It can be slightly off, honestly, it can. It won't hurt anything. And this time I'm going to take this way, and I'm going to line them up in exactly the same way that I did the first time, like that. This time I'm going to use this piece this way, this way, and this way. right, and I'm going to scrunch it up. I hope more than once, from either this side to this side to this side, or if necessary, this side to this side. I like the way I have extra space going this way, so I'm just gonna squinch it up as tight as I can, and I'm going to loop my chenille stem over the top and twist it tight. If you need to use a pair of pliers, I would say be careful. You don't want to hurt yourself. And you've got your attachment piece there. Okay, and then we're going to pull these up and away from each other. To a garland or something, a tree, you know, something. So there's that. There's this little sweet bow, and then here's the big Marie Antoinette, ginormous, huge, flashy bow. I like them all. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you're happy and safe and warm and doing exactly what you want to be doing. And I will see you in the next video.